Masechet Gittin Daf Lamed He. Since we mentioned one of the takanot of Rabban Gamliel Hazaken, that we do not allow the husband to go to a betin and nullify a get that he sent with a messenger. So now we're going to see another takana that Rabban Gamliel made, and also one that Hillel made. Mishnah. En almana nifrat menichsei yotomim ela bishvu'ah. A widow cannot collect her ketubah from the estate which goes to the sons of the husband, who are the orphans, unless she makes a shevu'ah. Now this is actually a general law that the Gemara will mention, that anyone who is owed money by the husband, and then this guy dies, so now they want to go and collect from orphans, but the orphans don't know if it was paid, or if we'll say it was a loan. Was it paid fully? Was it paid partially? They don't know. They may not know, and therefore the one who wants to collect money has to swear that they were not paid so that they can collect. This is true for anybody that the husband owes money, and it is also true for the almana. This is the ketubah payment, and once the husband dies, the ketubah needs to be paid. It will be paid by the yetomim. The yetomim might be her own sons, or it might be her stepsons. It doesn't matter. But the point is that it could be that we are worried that maybe the husband prepaid some amount of the ketubah beforehand, and therefore she would not be eligible to collect the entire thing, and that would be stealing from yetomim. So therefore, she has to make a shivu'ah that she did not receive any payment of the ketubah, and then she can collect. Which is like the same law for anyone who wants to take money from an estate. However, at a later stage, the rabbis stopped her from making an oath. We'll see, the Gemara will explain why. They were worried that a woman may purposefully or even inadvertently lie. Maybe they won't realize that they actually did collect some and forgotten about it. And then they will make a shivu'ah, which is a serious matter, and they will say it will not be true. So she would not be able to make a shivu'ah, and therefore she would also not collect her ketubah, which is a problem for her, because then she won't have money to live on. So then, hitkin Rabban Gamliel Hazaken shetenodedet leyatomim kol ma shirsu v'goba ketubata. So Rabban Gamliel Hazaken came to the rescue for these almanot who weren't able to collect their ketubah, and said, listen, instead of making a shivu'ah, which is very, very serious, make a neder, which is also serious, but less serious. Right? A shivu'ah is an absolute statement. I did not take any money. A neder is a conditional that has a prohibition attached to it. So she might say, for example, if I received any money of the ketubah, I will not eat meat for the next 20 years. Then that way, if she's lying, she just won't eat meat. Or you can make it more serious and say, I will not drink water. The point is that the yetomim can make her make a neder in anything that they want. They can make up the conditions. They can make it more serious if they don't trust their mother or stepmother. They could say, I won't eat anything at all. Or they can make it less serious if they trust her a little more, that she won't go on a vacation or eat chocolate or whatever it is, and that way she can receive her ketubah. Okay, so this is a kind of nice compromise, although we don't want her to lie and make a shivu'ah that may be an error. On the other hand, we do want her to get her ketubah, so let her make this neder, and that will be sufficient proof that she didn't receive it, so that she's not stealing from them, but it's also sufficiently not serious that we're worried that she'll be violating a major thing if, even inadvertently, she may have received some payment. Okay, that's the first law, which we'll deal with today. Next law that will come up tomorrow. Ha'edim chotmim ala get mipnei tikun ha'olam. Even though you could make a get without signing it and instead just have edim for delivery of the get, but there also another takana, probably also by Rabban Gamliel Hazaken, since it comes right after him, that you should have, when you write a get, you should also have edim sign on the get. And this is for the betterment of the world. As the Gemara will explain tomorrow, it will serve as proof in case you can't find the original witnesses that saw the transfer, but the witnesses that are written, signed in the get, so they can serve as proof, and as long as you can ratify the signatures. So it'll be easier to ratify, easier for her to prove in the future that she was in fact divorced. And then famously, Hillel made a takana called a peroz bol, also for the betterment of the world, in order to help people who have outstanding loans collect the loans after Shivi'it. And since they know they can collect them through Shivi'it by transferring it to a betin, that way they will be willing to give loans before the Shivi'it comes and won't violate the Torah that says, don't be stingy and close your hand because you know the Shivi'it is coming and it's going to cancel loans and then you're not going to give to the poor. So that helps the people so that they won't violate that. It also obviously helps the poor that they can receive loans and so that they can live. So this has a lot of benefits, this peroz bol. Okay, my idea almana afilu kole almana me dehakay malan habali para menichsei yatomim lo yipara ela bishvuah. We're wondering, why does the Mishnah say an almana cannot collect money from the yatomim without a shivua? This is actually true for everyone. So why does the Mishnah say anyone cannot take, right? Because we know that is the halacha. Anyone who comes to receive money, to collect money from the estate that that the yatomim inherit, cannot be repaid unless they make a shivuah. So why do you have to mention almana specifically? Almana istarech aleh sakadatech amina mishum china akelu rabanan gaba kamashmalan. Because I might have thought that maybe the rabbis made a special leniency for a widow, because after all she is a widow, and maybe they allowed her to collect her ketubah even without making a shivuah. We'll trust her. Let her take a collect her ketubah. Don't put any obstacles in the way, so that she will be more marriageable. She'll be more desirable. We'd like her to hopefully get remarried. And it'll be easier for her to get remarried if she receives, let's say the ketubah is $100,000, and so now she has $100,000 to her name that she can bring into a new marriage, and so that will make her more eligible. So we might have thought that the rabbis would make a leniency special for her, and that's why the Mishnah has to teach that no, it's not true. We do not make a special leniency for her. I mean, even though, of course, we want to help out a widow, but on the other hand, if we make that leniency, it's a problem because of stringency for the orphans, because then it could be that someone will, it could be another case where someone will extract money from the orphans unfairly, because the ketubah was already paid, and now the orphans will have to pay, and you're taking money away from orphans, which also we don't want to do. So you always have to think about the consequences. You do something good on this side, but it might have negative consequences on the other side. And so therefore, the rabbis, the Mishnah is teaching that everyone's no exceptions. Even an almanah has to make a shivuah. Let her make a shivuah, right? If it's true, it's good. Okay, that was the original law. But then, nimne'u melahashpi'ah, they stopped, the court, the Beit Din, stopped allowing her to make a shivuah. They would not, and she would not get her ketubah either. My ta'ama, why? Why didn't they let her make a shivuah and collect? Ilema mishum de Rav Kahana, Amar Rav Kahana, v'amdi la Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav, Maseh be'adam echad b'shnei basoret, shehifkid dinar zahav esel almana, v'inachto והניחתו בחד של קמח והפעתו בפת ונתנתו לעני. Perhaps we don't want her to make a shivuah because of the following story. The following story is a demonstration of the severity of making a false oath, even if she thinks it's true, and even if it's almost true, it still has severe consequences. That's the point of this story. So this story is in the name of Rav Kana, or in the name of Rav, that there was a certain person in a time of a year of famine, and he took a dinar, and he took a dinar zahav, and he gave it to a widow to hold for him. Maybe he's going on a trip, whatever. He says, listen, can you hold on to this for me until I come to collect it back? So she put it in a nice, safe place. She put it in a jar of flour. That's good. Who's gonna look in a jar of flour? But then she apparently forgot it was there. And so then she baked a loaf of bread with that flour, including with the coin inside the challah. Maybe this is the source of cooking a key inside a loaf. But here she cooked this coin, and then, not knowing that the coin was in it, she was nice enough to give tzedakah to a poor person. She gave the poor person the loaf of bread. Okay, so she had no idea. She thought that the coin is still in the jar of flour. After some time, the guy who owned the coin and gave it to her said, "Okay, give me back my dinar that I asked you to watch for me." So she went and looked, and the jar of flour wasn't there. So Amra le. יהנה שם המוות באחד מבניה של אותה אישה, אם נהניתי מדינריך כלום. And she made a vow and said, may poison come and be effective on one of my children. She says, אותה אישה, that woman, but she means herself, if I benefited at all from your coin, right? So she's making a vow. I did not steal it. I did not take it. I did not benefit from it. I don't know what happened. It's just lost. Okay. Amru lo hayu yamim mu'atim ad shemet echad mibaneha. But sure enough, this is how severe a vow is. Even though actually she thought she was telling the truth, and after some day, was not only a few days later, one of her children sadly died. And so the rabbis heard about the story and said, if someone who swears truthfully gets a punishment like this, how much more so someone who swears knowingly that they said a falsehood, all the more so they would deserve punishment. Okay, that's the story. Now, a couple of questions on the story. My tama'i ansha. Wait a second, why should she be punished? She didn't get any benefit from the coin, so what her vow was true. She got no benefit. The poor person got benefit, but she didn't. And the answer is the ishtarshi la mekom dinar. Oh, she did benefit from the space of the dinar. Took up some space inside the bread. If she didn't have the dinar wasn't there, she would have had to use a little bit more flour. How much? I mean, a very tiny bit. More flour to fill in that space. So she actually saved on a tiny bit of flour, so she did get some benefit from it, and therefore, technically, it was a lie that she said that she got no benefit from the dinar. Okay, according to that interpretation, then why is the story say that she swore truthfully, if in fact it was a lie? And the answer is, well, it was like the truth. First of all, she thought it was true. She had no idea that the coin was in it. And also, it's less than a penny's worth of flour that she benefited. So it was kind of like it was like a truthful statement that had, in a small way, was technically wrong, and received such a severe punishment. And so all the more so someone that maybe knowingly received some money from ketuvah and swore falsely would get a terrible punishment. And even if a woman did not know that the husband had paid her, maybe he paid something for her that would be deducted from the ketubah, and maybe she forgot, and so she might make a vow that she received nothing, but in fact she received something, even if it's a little bit, and makes a vow, and that would cause a terrible punishment. And therefore, the rabbi said, you know what? We're not going to impose an oath on an almanah, but she also can't collect from the orphans without almanah, so she cannot collect the ketubah at all. Okay, so now we ask about that. Wait a second, if that's the reason that we're afraid that people will make a false shivu'ah, then how come this is true only for almanah, that the courts stopped making her take a shivu'ah? How come they don't say so for girusha also? If a woman is girusha, she also is eligible to collect her ketubah. And she, let's say the husband then dies after they are divorced, and she has to collect from the yitomim, so she can go ahead and make a vow. So how come we don't worry about that? We only said this law of the Mishnah regarding almanah. But if it's a gerusha, then the court will administer a shivu'ah, and she can collect her ketuvah. How come we're not afraid that she might be purposefully or inadvertently lying and making a false shivu'ah? So we should have the same law and don't make her take a shivu'ah. And the answer is almana shaneh tebahi hana'ah dekatarha kamediat me atya leoruye hetera. Almana is different because almana remains in the house. See, if a gerusha, once they're divorced, they are separated, and she leaves the house and she goes live somewhere else. Whereas almana, when the husband dies, she has a right to remain. She can say, I want to remain in the house. And she has a right to be also sustained by the ketuvah. She doesn't have to collect the ketuvah right away. In fact, it might be beneficial for her to be sustained by the estate. She'll live there. She'll receive food from the estate. And she only will eventually collect her ketuvah when she's ready to get remarried, right? If she finds a guy, she wants to get remarried, then she's moving out of the house, she's not going to be sustained anymore by the estate, then she can say, okay, pay me the ketuvah amount. So almanah who remains in the house. And who else is in the house? The yatomim. Again, whether it's her own sons or stepsons, and she is taking care of things in the house, helping out with the children there. So she may permit herself to say that she did not receive money from the ketuvah, even though she did, because she'll consider it like payment for helping out around the house. So she will rationalize, permit herself. She says, look, I just did cleaning up, and I played with the kids, and I cooked dinner, and whatever she did around the house and helped out because she is living there. She'll say, well, that deserves payment. So even though, yes, true, I did get $1,000 worth of payment from the ketubah, but I'm not considering that as payment to ketubah. I'm considering that as payment for taking care of things around the house. So that's why we're worried that almanah may lie because of this consideration. So again, either purposely or inadvertently, thinking that this is this payment she deserves and not payment that should be deducted from the ketubah. So she is more likely to make this mistake and lie, whereas a gerusha is out of the house, and so there's no possibility that she will think that she got any money at all. She'll know either she got money back when, or she didn't get money from the husband, and so we don't have to worry about her making this mistake and lying. So therefore, a gerusha does make a shivu'ah and collects. Almanah, who is still in the house, does not make a shivu'ah. She may make a mistake and make a false shivu'ah, and she cannot collect. Good. Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba, Rav Ushmuel da'amre tarvaihu. Lo shanu ela bebeit din, aval chus lebeit din, mashba'in ota. So, we're going to see two versions of this halacha. In this first version, Rav and Shmuel are both in agreement that this law of the Mishnah is only true in a bet din. But if it's outside a bet din, then the orphans can impose a swear of a shivu'ah on her. Why? Because a shivu'ah in bet din is very severe. You use Hashem's name, you hold a holy object, and so that's very, very serious. So we really don't want her to make a mistake and say a false shivu'ah in bet din. However, if they're outside of bet din, then it's not as severe. So then the orphans can make her take a shivu'ah, and then she can collect her money. That's both Rav and Shmuel agree to that. However, we have a question about Rav. Ini baha Rav la magbe ketubah la'armalta. We know that Rav would not allow a widow to collect a ketubah. Not at all. She can't make a shivu'ah inside. She can't make a shivu'ah outside, and so it wouldn't be possible at all. And so they see that Rav did not have this loophole that she can make a shivu'ah outside of bet din. Kashya. This is indeed difficult. We have a problematic contradiction between these two statements of Rav. Okay, that's all one version. Besura matnu hachi. That's how they learned what Rav and Shmuel said in Surah. However, b'mehardea matnu hachi. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel Lo shanu ela bebeit din aval chutz lebeit din mashba'in ota. In this version, only Shmuel said that the law of the Mishnah applies in bet din only. That's when they will not impose a shivu'ah on her. But if it's outside of bet din, then they can impose a shivu'ah on her. That's what Shmuel said. Rav Amar afilu chutz lebeit din nami en mashba'in ota. However, Rav disagreed with Shmuel. He was more machmir and said, no, not even outside of bet din, we do not impose. The orphans cannot impose a shivu'ah on her, even though it's less severe. Still, we are worried that she's going to lie, and we don't want her to violate a shivu'ah, which is also serious even outside of bet din. Rav le'ta'ameh, and in this version of the conversation, the story that was a challenge now actually becomes a support. Rav le'ta'ameh, the Rav lamagbe ketuvah la'almata, and we see that Rav in fact followed his own reasoning because Rav would not allow a widow to collect her ketubah. Because they would not be able to do it in bet din, and she could not take a shivu'ah, not even outside of bet din, and so it was a problem. Okay, that's the second second version. Now we have a question. V'li adira ve'lig baya. Wait a second. I know you can't make her take a shivu'ah, but why not make her take a neder? Right? We saw that was the takana of Rabban Gamliel that said, all right, shivu'ah is too strong, but make a neder, and that will be sufficient proof. And it won't be that serious, so isn't that a good, why not do that, so that she can collect? Rav said, no way to collect. And the answer is, B'shnei de Rav, kili nidre. During the time of Rav, when Rav lived, vows were treated very lightly. People would just make vows left and right, the same way people, just say a curse word today. And say all kinds of things, right? Oh, this is if it's light stays red, I'm going to stop eating meat. And then they would ignore it. They would just set it as just offhandedly and didn't take them seriously. And so therefore, we're worried that the wife would, fine, I'll make a neder, anything you want. Okay, I'll never eat fruit. I'll never eat vegetables again. I didn't take anything. But she may be lying and not care about it, so it won't be a test at all. And therefore, we cannot allow her to collect with a neder because you may be taking money from orphans that they don't really have to pay. Hahidatai lekamed Rav Huna amar la ma'ibid lich derav la magbe ketubah almata. Now we have a series of fascinating stories, and here you have one almana, widow that came to Rav Huna. And she's in this situation. She needs to collect her ketubah from the orphans, but now, she wants to, but she has to make a shivu'ah, but now the courts don't do shivu'ah anymore. And so she comes to Rav Huna to help, and Rav Huna says, what can I do for you? I can't help you. I'd like you to get your ketubah, but Rav, who's Rav Huna's teachers, would not allow Almanah to collect the ketubah, because we don't want her to trip up with a shivu'ah. So sorry, can't help you. Amrale midi hu ta'ama ela dilma nakitna midi miketubati chay Hashem Sevot im neneti miketubati kelum. This almanah, she was a little bit learned. And she says, I know the reason. What's the reason that we can't make a shivu'ah? Because maybe I really did collect some amount of my ketubah, and then you're afraid that I'll be making a shivu'ah that's false. You know what? I will jump the gun, and I'll make a shivu'ah right here and now. And without being asked, she went and said, by the life of Hashem Sevaot, a bad evil should befall me if I benefited at all from this ketubah. Amar Rav Huna, modeh Rav bekofeset. And Rav Huna said, well, Rav, my teacher, agrees that if a woman goes and jumps the gun, and she, by her own initiative, takes a shivu'ah, then it's permitted for her to collect her marriage contract. Right, we were afraid that we didn't want to impose a shivu'ah because then she may be lying. But now she already made the shivu'ah, and so we don't have to worry that then she will do something because we asked her that she would make her a lie. So she must really mean it if she went ahead and made the shivu'ah, and after all, now there's no legal claim against her. She made a shivu'ah, so we have to allow her to take the payment if she does so. So this woman knew this and was able to get around it. Maybe she didn't know that it would work, but she wanted to show, I really, really didn't, and so she made this and it worked. And so that story had a happy ending. Hahida taile kamed Rabba bar Rav Huna amar la mayevid lich derav la magbe ketubah almata ve'abba mari la magbe ketubah almata. So a similar story of a widow wanted to collect her ketubah from orphans, and so she came to Rabba, the son of Rav Huna, and for help. And he said, I can't help you, I'm sorry, because Rav would not allow a widow to collect an almanah, and also my father and teacher, who is Rav Huna, also when he was a dayan, we just saw the source, in the previous case, he also would not allow an almanah to collect the ketubah. So, I'd love to help you, but there's no way I can do it. Amra le habli mezoneh. So she said, okay, fine, I can't collect my ketubah, then give me my regular sustenance. As we said before, a widow, before she receives a ketubah, she doesn't have to demand her ketubah. She can remain in the house, receive sustenance, receive everything, be sustained by the estate. She says, okay, I'm not getting my ketubah, okay, I want my regular sustenance. Amar la mezoneh nami let lich. Amar Rav Yehuda amar Shemuel Hatovat ketubata bebetin and la mezonot. She says, no, sorry, now you lost out on your mezonot also, because Shemuel says, note that he's following Rav for the previous law that she cannot collect her ketubah payment, but he's also following Shemuel for the following law that says that if a woman comes to Bet Din to request to collect her ketubah, then she stops getting sustenance. The reason is because we assume, why are you coming to collect your ketubah? Must be that you're planning to get remarried. And so that's it. You're moving out of the house. You're not going to be dependent on the estate anymore. You're going to be dependent on your husband, who will take care of you. So that's why you're collecting it. But once you're ready to remarry, then you can't get mizonot anymore. So now she's really stuck between a rock and a hard place, right? Because she came to the court to ask for the ketubah, she doesn't get mizonot. Or even though the answer of the court was no, you cannot collect the ketubah, so she gets no ketubah and no mizonot. You can imagine. She was pretty upset. And so she said, Amra le afchuha lechurseh, kebe tere avda li. A great line. She said to Rabbi, the son of Rav Huna, may your chair be overturned, meaning may you lose your job. So she curses him because look how you follow two different opinions. You're not even consistent. Either follow Shemuel all the way through, because Shemuel says that she could make a shivuah outside of Bet Din, and she'll be able to collect that way, right? Or don't follow Shemuel and allow me to take mizonot. Look how you pick and choose the chumrot of both Rav and Shemuel, to get me out of any payment at all. Right now, I have to go beg in the street. And so she was really upset, and you don't want to upset an almanah. And so, what they did is they turned his chair over physically and put it back up, so that hopefully the literal meaning of the curse will apply there, and then the real, actual meaning, figurative meaning of the curse maybe will not apply. But even though they did that, it didn't help. He was not saved from this weakness, either a physical weakness, maybe he got sick, or a mental weakness, that he got depressed. So he still suffered the results of this curse because he was not taking care of this with this widow. All right, so this is a story that had not a happy outcome. Amar le Rav Yehuda le Rav Yirmiyah bida'a adraha bebet din vashpe'a chutz lebet din ve'lete kala ve'lipo be'udnai teba'ena kihechi abid ba'ma'aseh. Rav Yehuda, he was a student of Shemuel, and so he wanted the halacha to be widespread like Shemuel. So he said to Rav Yirmiyah bida'a, listen, if any widow comes and she wants to collect her ketubah from Yetomim, here's what I want you to do. Either allow her to make a neder in Bet Din, or let her make a shivuah outside of Bet Din, right? That's what Shemuel said. The neder in Bet Din, that was already from the Mishnah, is the takana of Rabban Gamliel. Rav didn't allow because in his place he felt that people were taking them lightly. But Rav Yehuda said, no, that's still fine. You can make a neder in Bet Din, or fine, she won't do that. Do a shivuah outside of Bet Din, as Shemuel says, and I want you to publicize it. And I want to hear the report that a woman did so, and that you adjudicated it, and I okayed it too, so that it will become a precedent, and that way other people can benefit also. So you see here really like a live debate of these actual cases, of these various amoraim trying to adjudicate, and this is a difficult situation because you want to get the right balance between allowing the almanah to get her ketuvah or mizonot, so she'll be taken care of. On the other hand, you want to protect the assets of the yetomim, that they're not paying something that they don't need to be paying, and that would be stealing from them. And so these various amoraim, as judges, are trying to adjudicate it in one way or another, but also taking into account the legal prohibitions and the legal requirements, and finding, if they can't do it in one way, finding some other way in order to help people in these situations. So really very, very interesting set of laws and stories. Okay, now we're going to analyze further this statement. Kufa amar Rabbi Zera amar Shmuel lo shanu ela almana v'girusha mashbi'inota. The law of the Mishnah applies only to an almana, that we do not impose a shivua on her, but that was the bet hedin. But then eventually Rabban Gamliel Hazaken made a takana that the almana, she can make a neder instead of a shivua, and that'll be sufficient proof so that she can collect her ketubah. But for Girusha, this does not apply. Girusha can make a shivua because we're not as afraid that she is going to lie, since she's out of the house. She's not helping out around the house, so she'll be trusted to say the truth, whether she received the ketubah or not. Whereas almana, who's living in the house and helping around the house, may justify taking a shivua that she did not receive anything, even though she did receive something. She'll consider it as payment. So now we ask about that. Ugrusha adera la. So according to the Mishnah, only an almana can use this legal leniency and make a neder in shivua, but that means a gerusha, she has to make a shivua in court, and she cannot make a neder instead. Is that true? And here we're going to have a story that shows that references a gerusha who, in fact, made a neder and was able to collect. This is a letter from a Betin in Israel to a Betin in Bavel. The Betin in Israel received this gerusha, arranged a get for this woman, and also allowed her to collect her ketubah based on a neder, as we'll see. And then we quote the exact wording of this letter. Ech pelonita bat pelonita kabilat gita min yada de'aha bar hidya temitkere aya mari. So first of all, this letter testifies that this woman received the get from the hands of this man named Acha bar Hidya, who is also called Aya Mari. So this will be good, that way she can get remarried based on the certification from the court that she's divorced. Un darat v'asarat perot ba'olam ala de la kabilat מכתובתה אלא גילוף קרא, אחד בספר תהילים, אחד בספר יובומim shalot beluim. And furthermore, she made a neder, right in front of us, that she will she will be prohibited to all fruit in the world if she received any amount of her ketubah except for a cloak and a scroll of Tehillim and a scroll of Iyov and Mishle that are worn out. That she did receive. Ushmanu b'chamisha maneh, and we estimated that they are worth about 500 dinar. Uchshetavo liyetchem hagbuha et hashe'ah. Now, so therefore, when she comes to you in Bavel, in your betin, please allow her to collect the rest of it. Apparently, the estate was in Bavel, and so the get was adjudicated in Israel, but now she can go use this to collect the rest of her ketubah. So this is a fascinating story altogether about how this letter, and she had to write it here and then take it there. Fascinating that this is her main belongings is Sefer Tehillim, Mishle, Iyov, and Mishle. And I guess she read them and learned from them. So that's also interesting. But the main point for us is that she made a neder and was able to collect her ketubah, even though she's a gerusha. There's a challenge because, according to Shmuel here, said that a gerusha has to make a shivuah, so neder would not be sufficient. So what do you do with this story? Amar Vashe, hahu get yevamin ava. Oh, when it says get here, it doesn't mean a get, a regular get, that from nisuin. It's not talking about a case when they were married, but rather, get Yevamin means that she fell to this man as a Yevama. Her husband died, and then she fell to one of the brothers. And so the brother's name is actually Acha bar Hidya. Now he's supposed to do either Yibum or Chalitza. Instead, he doesn't do either. He gives her a get. Now this get will not be effective in allowing her to get remarried, but it will be effective enough in the sense that it will be prohibited after that. Once a Yevama receives a get, then none of the brothers can do Yibum. Instead, one of them would have to do Chalitza. So it's not fully effective, but it's effective to that extent. Anyway, so this is a get Yevamin, and she therefore actually is an almana from her husband, who actually died, and so she wants to collect her ketubah as an almana, and so she in fact was an almana, and that's why making a neder was perfectly sufficient. And now the next part of the Mishnah said, Rabban Gamliel zaken shetehen noderet. So Rabban Gamliel said, listen, we have to help out these almanot or not, we don't want them to make a shavua, but they'll make a less severe neder, and then they can collect their ketubah. Regarding that, Amar Rav Huna, lo shanu ela b'shelo niset, aval niset en madirin ota. This is only true if she did not get remarried. She can make a neder and collect. But if she went and got remarried, then she cannot make a neder to collect her ketubah. She won't be able to collect her ketubah at all. Why? Niset ma'itama demefer la ba'ala, demefer la ba'al. Because we are afraid that here's what will happen. She'll go to court and she'll make a neder and say, if I received anything, I will not eat fruit forever. And she'll collect her ketubah. But then she'll go home and tell her husband what happened. But she may let her husband already knows that maybe she's lying and she actually did receive her ketubah. So no problem, the husband will go and nullify her vow. Because she's married, the husband has a right to do that. On the day that he hears about it, he nullifies the vow, and therefore, no problem, she can eat fruit, she can do anything she wants, and this will be easy for her to lie. So this is a problem. That's why she can't make a neder anymore. So then we ask about that. And so why don't we worry even if she's not married yet? She'll make a neder now. I did not receive anything. If I did receive anything, I won't have any fruit. And then eventually when she does get married, and then the husband hears, I made this vow before we married, the husband will be able to nullify it then. And she can, she'll rely on, I'm getting married, whatever, next week, next month, whenever I get married, I'll have my husband nullify the vow, and she won't care about lying now. And the answer is, no, a husband cannot nullify a vow that she already took before they were married. He can only nullify things from the marriage and onwards. Okay, why don't we worry about any woman, even if she didn't get remarried, that she will lie in court about a neder, then she'll go to a chacham, and she'll say, listen, I want to do hatarat nedarim, right? She says, right, mutarim lachem. And so she'll lie, and she'll go do hatara later, and it'll be no problem. Rav Huna thinks that chacham, in order to undo a vow, the wife has to detail exactly the vow. He can't just make a blanket statement like we do now, right? Everybody just said, of all the nedarim we made all year, has to specify. Then she's going to specify, okay, what's your neder? She's going to say, I actually did collect some of my ketubah, but I lied. And then I said I didn't take any money of the ketubah, and if I did, I won't eat fruit. But it's going to be really hard for me not to have fruit ever. So can you undo this neder? When the chacham hears that, he says, that's what the neder is. They made you lied about this. You're trying to take money from the orphans that you don't deserve, and he will not undo the neder. So therefore, there's no need to worry about that. And that explains that Rav Huna, only if she's single, not remarried yet, then there's no way for her to undo the vow, so therefore the neder, therefore we can trust the neder. But because she can't do a chacham won't work, and she's not married, there's no husband to do it, but if she's married, then the husband can undo it. That's the ruling of Rav Huna. Rav Nachman amar afilu niset. Rav Nachman is more lenient, says even if she's remarried, she can still take a neder. Even she didn't go and collect her ketubah before she got remarried, or it doesn't matter, whatever it is, she was busy. So she wants to get it now. After she's remarried, she can make a neder to the betin and she can collect it. Niset v'day mefer labal. Now we ask, wait a second, but then we definitely have to worry. The husband will be able to undo the neder, and then she can lie without any consequences. And the answer is de maderinan la barabim. We administer the vow in public, and if she makes a vow in public, then the husband does not have the right to nullify that vow. It's a publicly made vow, no good. Okay, so that explains Rav Nachman. Now we're going to have a couple of challenges against the previous ruling of Rav Huna. Meti beniset gova ketubata im nadra. This Baraita says if she was married, she can collect her ketubah only if she made a vow. My love nadra hashta. So does that mean that she's making a neder now that she is married? It says niset, she got married. She can still collect her ketubah if she makes a neder. It sounds like she's allowed to make a neder even after she's married. That's against Rav Huna. And we answer, la te nadera me'ikara. No, this means that she had made a neder before she was married. Right? She got married. She can still collect her ketubah if she had made a vow before she was married. So that's consistent with Rav Huna. But, okay, he got away with that baraita, but how is he going to answer this baraita? Vatanya, niset noderet v'goba ketubata. Here it says, if she got remarried, she can then make a vow, make a neder, and she can can collect her ketubah. So there's no way to reinterpret this baraita. Instead, we have to say tana'ehi. In fact, there's two baraitot, right? He can follow the previous baraita, but this and the second baraita would be the opinion of Rav Nachman. Because in general there are two Tanaitic opinions, and some say that if a neder was made in public, it can be undone. And that would be the opinion of Rav Huna, because it can be undone, so we cannot trust her to make a neder. Once she's married, she can easily lie, and the husband will undo it. But there's another opinion that said, if you make a vow in public, even the husband cannot undo it. And therefore, that would be the opinion of Rav Nachman, will make her make a neder in public, and then we'll be sure that there will be serious consequences to her if she lies, because the Chacham can't undo it, and her husband also will not be able to undo it. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, Amen ve'amen.